Hello and welcome back to Personally Branded, episode 6. Now, last episode, in episode 5, we looked at the concept of success and how that is really relative to you and what you believe will make you successful. So it's entirely in your own perception as to what success means to you, and that's fine, that's the way it should be. We also spoke about how if you really want to live a meaningful life, a purposeful life, that, of course, is relative to your success, which is relative to what you believe it to be. But to do that, I firmly believe that you have to see success as being the provision of some sort of value by you. In other words, you won't feel that you're living a meaningful life or a life of fulfillment or a life that has any real purpose unless you are delivering value to other people. That is really what makes us feel fulfilled. I firmly believe that. And I think if you look around at people who are successful, that's what you'll see. They're generally people who give value to other people. If they are successful and are to remain successful, that is what they're about, giving value. So what I want to do today is to take that whole idea of value and success and meaning and purpose and to build on that, to give you a few tools to help you come to grips with how you actually perceive yourself at the moment. Because if you remember at the end of episode 5, what we were talking about was how your feelings of self-perception and how you see yourself and how successful you see yourself and how much value you believe you can provide, that is what determines the level of success that other people see in you. It'll determine things like whether people employ you for a particular role or not. If you're not confident and you don't exude confidence and give the belief across to the other person, the person interviewing you, that you will be successful in this role and that you have belief in yourself, they will not employ you in that role. Similarly, if you want to achieve anything in life, if you don't believe that you can achieve it, it's highly unlikely you're actually going to do that. So let's take a look at this whole issue of self-perception, self-belief, and let's work out a few things for yourself as to what drives you in that regard. How do you see yourself? I think our self-perception is built up over many years of experience, the way we're brought up in our childhood, what we're told about ourselves by parents, by peers, by relations, by friends, then what we're told at school, then what we're told when we enter the workforce and we start working in jobs. What have people been saying to you in your life all the way through, and what have you come to believe about yourself as a result? What sort of self-talk have you been doing to yourself? Because we can build up perceptions about ourselves by convincing ourselves that we are or are not something in particular. So what have you been saying? Now, this can get fairly in-depth, and it can be quite tricky to actually get to grips with that for yourself and to really work out for yourself what it is you actually believe. So here's a little exercise to start off that might help you in getting onto this train of thought. Now, what I'd like you to do is to stop when I tell you to at this point in this episode and just jot down a few notes and then come back, just pause the video and then come back and continue. But you need to stop and pause this and to do it right there and then. It's important because later on in the episode we're going to do something that builds on what you're about to do now. So, I want you to think about yourself as if you were a car. I know that sounds weird. I know. This is not a new exercise. This is something that's been tried and tested. It's used quite a lot in branding for organizations, products and services. But it applies just as well and it works just as well for individuals. So think about yourself as if you were a car. If you were a car, what sort of car do you think you would be? If you're not a car fanatic and you don't understand that much about cars, you don't need to be too specific about makes and models and things. If you understand cars, you might pick a make and a model. But really, what I want to get you to think about is what sort of car you would be. Would you, in other words, be an older car, perhaps a little bit beaten up, been around the tracks a bit, got a lot of mileage on the clock, Scratched bodywork, maybe? I don't know. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're a really flashy red Ferrari or something. I don't know. You need to work it out. But think about it. Think about it quite deeply and have some fun with it. Look, play around a bit with it. Jot down a few things. But I want you to come to grips with a genuine belief as to what sort of car you think you would be now and why you would be that sort of car. And just jot that down. So get a piece of paper and write down, if I was a car right now, as I am currently, I would be a what? A beaten up old pickup truck, or ute as they call it in Australia, a flashy red Ferrari, as I said earlier, a good solid family sedan. You pick it and you work it out, and then think for yourself why you've said that. Why is it? For example, if you're a good solid family sedan, maybe you see yourself as the solid matriarch or patriarch of your family. You're always there for them, you're dependable, you're reliable, you help them, you support them, you get them where they need to go, and that's why you're that sort of car. If you're a flashy red Ferrari, maybe you see yourself as in that light. Maybe that's the sort of person you are. You live a fairly fast, flashy life. And that's fine. I'm not asking you to criticize yourself. I don't want you to criticize yourself. I want you just to write down what sort of car you think you would be and write down a few points as to why. You don't need to write a long war and peace on this. Just a few points as to why you're that sort of car. Just make notes. So long as you understand them, that's all that matters. So pause the video now, pause it now, and go and do that. And I'll be back with you very shortly. Okay, I hope you've done that. I hope you paused the video and wrote down some notes as to what sort of car you believe you currently are. If you were a car, what car would you be currently? And why? Why did you pick that sort of car? What made you say that? And have a look through it. And what I want you to do now is to think about what that says about you. Think about what sort of values, what sort of value you are giving to other people as a result of the sort of car you are. The example I used earlier, if you were a solid family sedan type car, what value are you providing to other people around that? What value are you providing to your family, for example? How does that translate perhaps in your career or in your job, in the workforce, in your community, with your friends? How does that translate? What value do you give to them? And does that tie in with the type of car that you said you would be? Make some notes around that. What I'm trying to do here is to get you to think in a different way about yourself, because it's quite hard for us sometimes to get inside ourselves and really think deeply about ourselves. So that's just a fun way of doing it. I hope you enjoyed doing that exercise. I think it's quite a fun exercise. When I do that in the workshops I run, people always really enjoy it and get into it. It's great fun. Now, let's assume you've done that. You've made some notes. You know what sort of car you believe you currently would be if you were a car and why. You've worked out what sort of value you provide by looking at what sort of car you said you were and working out what value that car would provide. Now what I'd like you to do, we're going to pause the video again in a minute, but I would like you now to think about what sort of car you would like to be. What sort of car would you like other people to see you as, for example? If you said you were a stable, big, maybe slightly sluggish family sedan, and you don't really want to be that, maybe you want a little bit of zip in yourself, maybe you want to be a little bit more flashy, maybe you need a new paint job, I don't know, but whatever it is, think about how you would like other people to actually see you and how would you like to see yourself in the future. What sort of car would you really like to be? So I'm going to get you to pause the video in a minute, write that down on another piece of paper or underneath your first set of notes. Write down what sort of car you would like to be and would like to be seen as, and then make some notes as to why. Make some notes as to why. So pause the video now and do that. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that and we'll be back with you. Okay, I'm assuming that you actually did that. I'm assuming that you made some notes about what sort of car you would like to be seen as. So now, compare the two. Have a look at your notes about what sort of car you said you currently are and why, and what value you provided to other people as a result of that. Now have a look at what sort of car you said you would like to be, what sort of car you would like other people to see you as, and why. And work out what sort of value you would be providing to other people if you were that new type of car. And what's the difference? Is there a difference between the value you saw yourself as providing currently versus the value you see yourself as providing in the future? Is it different, or are you just trying to be more flashy or trying to give perceptions or illusions of something that you really perhaps are not? So take a look at that. Do that comparison. Think about it a bit. Do you really want to be the new sort of car? Was that providing better value? Maybe you're providing the same sort of value but in a better way. I don't know. Anything's possible with this. You work it out for yourself. Use it as a little tool. Play with it. Have some fun with it. Do it a couple of times over the next few days. I think you'll find it's a really useful way of getting an idea of what you're currently about, what you would really like to do with your life, what will give you meaning and value, because you've got inside yourself and been able to see yourself from a slightly different perspective. Have some fun with this. Play with it. And when we come back next time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use that to start to tweak what you're about and to start to develop for yourself a new way of looking at yourself. And then from that, we can look at new ways of getting other people to look at you so that you can create the correct perceptions in people about what you're actually about as an individual and as a human being. I hope you found that fun. I hope you've got something out of it. Play with it over the next few days. I'll be back with you next week with another episode of Personally Branded. I'm John Carroll. Thank you for being with me.